Vi fortsætter vores dækning af Gamescom-spilmessen i Køln her på Railgun TV. Vi har talt med Jonny Ebbert, senior game designer på StarCraft II, om den kommende udvidelse til spillet Heart of the Swarm.
Kerrigan was restored to human form at the end of Wings of Liberty, but she does still have some traces of Zerg elements in her. You can tell in her hair, and basically, with being restored to human form, human emotions have come back, and she does have some memories of the very terrible things she's done. So she's very conflicted about that. She feels a lot of pain. At the same time, she also has her previous human emotions of being betrayed by Arcturus Mengsk, left to die on that planet, being transformed by the Overmind, which was not a pleasant experience. So she has a lot of anger inside of her, but at the same time, her compassion has returned. So I think a large part of the story is going to be kind of that wrestling of her humanity against her more feral anger. The other thing is she wants to get the Swarm back together because she wants to kill Arcturus Mengsk, who she sees as kind of the source of most of her suffering. So to do that, since he's protected by the majority of the Terran army and the Terran fleet, she feels like she has to get the Swarm back together. And the Swarm is kind of scattered into either a mindless state or little enclaves of Zerg controlled by independent queens. And some of those queens, when she meets them, might say, hey, I recognize you, you're Kerrigan, but some of the feistier queens are saying, I'm not sure you're even the Queen of Blades, and even if you were, you're kind of weak now compared to what you used to be. I don't want to follow you anymore, because she did kind of give queens a lot of sentience and independence. So she has to kind of force those queens into submission. So in the mission you played, Zagara is one of those queens who doesn't recognize her as the Queen of Blades, won't submit, and Kerrigan has to do it by force. So that in a nutshell is kind of where Kerrigan's at when you play her on the showroom floor. We spend a lot of time trying to make our missions not only meet a high quality bar, but we try to make them unique from the other. Each one we try to make it a unique snowflake. So each mission has its own hook or gameplay mechanic, as we like to say. So the two you saw out on the floor, one, she's in a race with Zagara to collect enough eggs to create an army to destroy the other. So you're out racing, trying to find these egg locations, scoop them up. Zagara is also collecting them. Sometimes you run into each other. Zagara is very tough, has an entourage that follows her. The local defenses are friendly to her too, so you kind of have to, if you run into both of them at the same time, you have to fight them both. So that's one interesting mechanic. The other one is when you're fighting the Protoss, you have these freezing storms that come in. You've adapted to the cold on the planet. They haven't, so they have to cocoon themselves in these shields that protect them from the cold but immobilize them. So you can time your attacks with the storm to kind of rush into their base, do all kinds of damage and pull out, or you can try to brute force it and just build up enough to push them over regardless of the storm. But the missions play much different from each other, have different pacing, different mechanics, and we try to do that with every mission, all the 20 or so missions you're going to play. In mission, you'll kind of notice like bridges collapse now as stalactites fall over. That's kind of a little feature we've added. But between missions, Kerrigan's aboard a Leviathan, which is like for those that played Liberty, it's that giant tentacle creature you run into late in the campaign. But instead of just kind of keeping you cooped up on a Leviathan between missions, we wanted to give you a broader view of the galaxy. So we parked the Leviathan on the planet you're visiting. And you can see the planetscape through the open mouth of the Leviathan. And as you play missions on a planet, you'll actually see some of the effects of your missions on the planet kind of unfold in the background itself, which we think is really exciting. Instead of like all these additional little sub-chambers in the Leviathan, we thought, wouldn't it be cool to see different planetscapes? It's like Calder is a very frozen planet, with these majestic frozen vistas, and Char is like a planet covered in larvae and basalt. And so it just kind of, we thought the player would feel more connected to his environment if you could see the different terrains he's visiting up close and personal. Well, there was one mission in particular a lot of people just hated. I'm not going to say which one, but it's like everything is like, I loved Liberty Campaign, but I hated this one mission. And we're like, yeah, everybody hated that mission. So we just kind of actively said, okay, we're never making a mission like that one again. And we've kind of taken it apart. It was like, yeah, this is where the mission went wrong, and this is what sucked about it. And then sometimes when we're at lunch, we try to say, how could we fix that mission? And we'll be like, well, maybe if we try this. We still haven't figured out a way to fix that mechanic yet, but it's like kind of this long-term brain teaser for us or whatever. But So that's one. Another ironic thing we found out is a lot of people kind of felt Liberty was too long. They wanted the story and they thought they had to go through too many missions to get the story. So we've kind of compressed the campaign a little bit and just made it tighter, and we get to the plot points quicker and things like that. So yeah, we definitely listen to the community and look for ways to improve the campaign. Yeah. People really liked the choices they made between missions. So a lot of people liked the upgrades they could get for the units. A lot of people really liked the research mechanic. So we've kind of tried to take that and really amp that up and give you even more compelling choices. So like what we have is you have the ability to upgrade your individual units, but at the same time you have the ability to permanently alter your units into subspecies. So the Zergling could be split into two subspecies of you can split it into the Raptor, which can leap to its targets, leap over enemies and obstacles to close the targets, or you have this Swarmling, which is a Zergling that launches 3 for the price of 1 rather than 2 for the price of 1, so you can quickly overwhelm your enemies. So we're trying to really add those kind of really compelling, meaty choices to the campaign. The story's focused on Kerrigan, and we're really trying to focus the gameplay around her. We have a catchphrase is all Kerrigan all the time, and the fantasy we're trying to fulfill with that is, in Liberty, Kerrigan would come across you and just ruin your stuff, massacre your army, wipe out half your base. And we thought, well, would it be cool if the player actually got to do that for a change rather than have that done to him? So Kerrigan will grow in power over the course of the campaign, and she will get to that point where she commands almost godlike powers. And more importantly, she'll have multiple sets of powers to choose from. The two you'll see out on the show floor today are, you'll see the Spec Ops kit, which is a more destructive power kit built on destroying groups of units. Corruption kit's more sinister. It's meant to weaken large parts of the army and set them up for your army to destroy. But what makes this mechanic unique is when you upgrade your army or you create subspecies, you're making a decision that's permanent. Whereas Kerrigan has these multiple power sets and you're not committed. Like, you can try one mission as Spec Ops, you can try the next mission as Corruption, and you can jump back and forth however you like, whatever the mood strikes you or whatever you think will work best for that mission when you see the briefing. So we're pretty excited about it. To get a unit in multiplayer is such a competitive endeavor because A, it can't overlap with any other unit in the game in terms of what it does or how it functions. B, it has to be highly balanceable, highly tunable. C, it has to fill a need for the race. And there's other criteria. It's tough to make a multiplayer unit. Single player, a unit, the standards are way less stringent because it's a private experience. If it's a little overpowered, that's actually kind of cool because the player feels awesome. You're not going to ruin another player's experience by steamrolling with that overpowered unit. So we can be much more liberal with what we do in the single player campaign. So usually how it goes is if a unit is made for multiplayer, you'll often see it in the campaign because it's good enough for multiplayer, it's definitely good enough for campaign. But if a unit appears in single player, that's no guarantee. We will have units that say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you did this? Well, it's not super balanced. Who cares? It's single player. You can kind of do that. Yeah. We want Kerrigan to feel really mighty. We want her to feel like a part of your army. But if you lose Kerrigan and you're waiting for her to revive, we don't want you to be completely crippled. But we don't want you to be able to steamroll the mission because we always feel the sweet spot is when the mission is really challenging you, but not beating you or completely crushing or overwhelming you. We actually have a guy whose full-time job it is to kind of develop, balance the AI for each difficulty level, and he's really good at it. And especially on the harder difficulties, you can kind of see his more sinister, evil side come out because he really likes to punish the advanced players. So yeah.